How you doing, folks? My name's Cormac. I'm singer in The Answer, and you're watching the Kerrang podcast.
Tell us about your new album, Everyday Demons. It's being released on March the 2nd.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so, when did you start writing the album?
We started writing, I think, just before Christmas of 2008, it would have been. So, just over a year ago. And it took us maybe 4 or 5 months to complete the whole writing process. And got ourselves over to LA to record it then. But it was a fun experience. It's the first time we've had to sit down and be given, right, you've got 5 months to write an album, because obviously our first album was written over the space of 3 or 4 years, so I think it works to the album's benefit.
Yeah, there's the old saying, you've got your whole life to write your first album and a relatively short period. Did you feel much pressure, or did it?
There was a bit of pressure, not gonna lie to you. Initially, you're thinking, this next album, any band's second album is all important, You can look at so many different examples of bands that bring out a second album that doesn't quite cut it, and all the good work that they've done in the first, it means nothing, they just fall away, So, we were aware of that, but once we got the first couple of songs nailed, the first couple of songs that we were all happy with, I'm not talking about the 10 or 15 attempts that we made before we got it just right. Once we had them under our belts, I think the pressure eased off a bit, and we realised that we had it in us to make a really good, strong album. And then we just kicked back and relaxed and really enjoyed it, and the floodgates opened, as I say. And,
yeah.
20, 30 good songs later, we're ready to go into the studio.
Cool, because in the Kerrang piece that's in next week's magazine, you mentioned that you did a lot of sort of pre-production and ironing out the creases of the album in the back end of nowhere. Whereabouts is that? Does it have a postcode?
It's in an area called Minerstown, which is somewhere between Downpatrick and Belfast. It's just right on the coast, where we'd come out of the studio, just a small studio run by this guy who, he's just a complete recluse, he just kind of locks himself away. And you could see the ocean was like literally 5 minutes walk from where we were, but there was just nothing apart from this studio and the house that the guy lived in. And our kind of big name producer from LA coming in, the big smoke of LA, spent most of his life growing up in New York. It was a complete stark contrast to what he was used to, but it worked again. We had no distractions, and by that stage we had all the songs in place, so it was just a case, as I said, just getting it just right. So that was a fun couple of weeks, and then we were away to LA immediately after that.
So this man was John Travis, who's worked with Disturbed and many massive US bands. Did you buckle down to hard work when you got to LA, or did you have a few kind of sightseeing days?
No, it didn't. It was a very intense process. Even the pre-production was very intense. It wasn't any time off. We were working 12, 14 days every day. We got a day off for the 4th of July,
right.
And I think another afternoon off the entire time we were there. Over 5 weeks we were out there, and literally on the last day of recording, the taxi driver had to wait outside at the studio for an hour while we finished up hand claps and tambourines, the last finishing touches that we were doing.
Yeah.
And he must have thought we were mental, because the way we had it, we had the spare bedroom set up as a studio as well, so that we could be doing our hand claps and backing vocals, and Paul could be finishing off his solos in the main studio. So the driver was sitting there, and you could hear everything. I'd be coming in from lunch or whatever, and Mickey would be screaming out the backing vocal, the walking mat, and I'd be thinking, anybody that doesn't realise there's a studio out the back here probably thinks we are completely mental, So the driver, I'm sure it was no exception.
Excellent. On and On will be the first single from the album, February the 22nd. Can you tell us about sort of what inspired that song from your point of view?
Yeah, I suppose musically it's a song it was one of the first ideas that we put up on the table when we were starting to write the album, because it was something that emerged from a jam the guys would break into at the end of our set when we were touring over the last year and a bit. So we just chipped away at it, made sure all the pieces were in place. Lyrically, it's about getting over any kind of barriers that are thrown in your way on a day-to-day basis. You know, whether it's something massive that a friend of yours dying, or something big that you just have to you realise that if you can let the trouble swallow you up, or you can react in a positive way and get on with your life, and try and see the positives in it, or just the stupid things that get you down in the day. You just have to remember that don't take your life too fucking seriously, just straight and true.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So you're currently on AC/DC tour. Technically, you'll be joining them again in Europe shortly.
Yeah.
And you spent quite a while in the US with them before Christmas.
Did.
I mean, how's it gone so far? Because it must be every band's dream to tour with AC/DC. How did the fans sort of take to you?
They were great, man. We were slightly apprehensive, not going to lie, before we went out there, thinking AC/DC fan base, hardcore, haven't seen the band in 7 years, could get quite messy. People never heard of us before, but from the offset, Kerrang, it was the first gig, got a good response, kind of settled our nerves, and from then on we just started to really enjoy it. We realised, we're not going to get bottled here. In fact, we were walking off to a standing ovation every night, and then checking out the MySpace the next day, getting lots of really good positive feedback every day from all these people that had been to the gigs.
Yeah.
And that was our first full tour of the States. So a couple of days after, it's just the first chance we've had to take a bit of stock. And we covered a lot of ground, and I think made some really good inroads into the American fan base now. So
because Brian Johnson lives in America and he still remains the most Geordie man on the earth. Did you have any language barrier problems with him?
To be honest, the Northern Irish accent did no harm over there.
Yeah.
I think the American ladies really tend to get into the way us boys talk for some reason. There are parts of the world where people aren't into it in any way, they're just wondering what the hell I'm saying half the time, but it did no harm,
So, I mean, how do you prepare yourself for such a lengthy tour? Because you won't be finished until sort of late June, ending up with shows at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have to prepare yourself mentally in any particular way, or is this just fun and you just take each day as it comes?
I think you just have to let go of any remnants of, if you want to call it normal life.
Yeah.
You just have to treat life on the road, playing in front of these massive crowds, and then of course obviously fitting in all our own gigs in between, and in all the breaks. We're heading off to Japan the next break to do our own stuff, and then America the next break after that. You just have to treat that as your reality, and as I say, let everything else go.
I mean, what's the strangest thing you've encountered in America? Because you must have driven through some weird places.
We played a gig in Fargo, and Fargo was like minus 40, freezing cold. We were living on the bus the whole time.
Yeah.
So in Fargo it was too cold to park up outside the venue, and they actually let us drive right into like the middle of the actual arena, where the next day all the DC fans would be standing applauding their favourite band. So we were actually asleep whenever we pulled in, and woke up the next day and emerged to this like massive dome, and I swear to God, we were told not to leave because it's too cold to go outside. So we spent the whole day in there like learning how to play baseball. We've got like one tech, an American guy, is teaching us how to swing a baseball bat with football, so we were having full-on games, football in the massive space we had at our disposal. But it was freaky. It was like living underground for 32 hours or whatever it was we were in there for, and that definitely was a surreal experience.
So what's the plans apart from AC/DC shows? When can we expect the UK tour?
Well, what we're doing, AC/DC, the tour's got a lot of days off. So for instance in Europe, on most of our days off we've got our own shows in, you know, places that we played back a couple of years ago when we were touring around Europe. So we're essentially threading our own headline tour in amongst all the arenas in Europe, and similarly, again, I think there's a bit of a break between playing the O2 Arena and wherever DC pick up in England after that. I think it's Manchester, and we're going to be playing maybe 4 or 5 of our own shows. I know we're down to play. We're doing a gig in Nottingham, a gig in Glasgow, a gig in Brighton in between the two O2 Arena shows, a gig in Belfast, which we're looking forward to.
Yeah.
And I think there's maybe 1 or 2 others penciled in there, but you know, for anybody that's interested, just keep an eye on MySpace and our website, and we'll keep you posted.
So finally, will the day after the Belfast show, I'll be taking some time off to recover from the imminent hangover?
We can't.
All right.
Go straight to Manchester the next day. I'm telling you.
That'll be a
You
rough
just have
ferry
to.
journey.
You wake up with a hangover in this tour. You just have to get on with it.
Brilliant. Well, Cormac, good luck with the rest of the shows, and the album's out March 2nd, out through Albert Records, and good luck.
Thanks very much.
No worries.
Cheers.